Hi guys! The end of the year is quickly coming upon us, which means there's only a few weeks left to finish your reading goals for the year, whether or not you're tracking through Goodreads, Storygraph, a personal, really in-depth Excel spreadsheet, or maybe you're not even tracking at all, but you don't have the bandwidth for a really long book because of all the holidays and the shopping and all that stuff. So I have here a list of really short books for you to read at the end of this year. Obviously, this is not like groundbreaking advice. It's not a genius idea reading a bunch of short books to inflate those numbers a little bit, but I think the end of the year is a really great time to read short books. It makes you feel like really productive. And like I said, like if you're really busy at the end of the year with all the holidays, these are quick little bites of stories to kind of sink your teeth into without getting too distracted. So jumping right in, first off, I have a cozy sci-fi novella series. Got 2 installments so far, and I just love this world so much, and that is A Song for the Wild Built, a monk and robot book, and then A Prayer for the Crown Shy, its sequel, both by Becky Chambers. I don't read a lot of sci-fi. It's something I'm very slowly dipping my toes into, but this is the perfect series to start with. And again, this time of year, I just want to read cozy stories, and this is that to a T. We follow a non-binary tea monk as they kind of go out into the wilderness to search for the meaning of life and what a life well lived looks like, and they end up running into a robot. And in this world, several centuries ago, robots put down their tools and stopped serving humanity and went out into the wilderness. They kind of all reached this collective sentience and awareness, and it was seen as unethical to put them to work anymore because they were sentient. It's just such a beautiful story. Like, I love this world. Like, I want to live in it. Like, just it just seems like such a hopeful outlook for like what society could look like. And even though some of the elements of this society seem idealistic, our main characters still kind of have their own troubles. They have the space to explore those troubles without judgment and with a ton of support. So I love this series so much. I want Becky Chambers to put out dozens of them. I would read every single one. I love the robot Mosscap specifically. I think they are so charming, and I just love that fish out of water kind of experiencing a new world for the first time kind of character, and Mosscap really encapsulates that perfectly. So the series is so cozy. I need to read more by Becky Chambers. I've heard that her Wayfarer series especially is excellent. But yeah, these are 2 really cute, tiny books that you can smash out in an afternoon if you needed to. If you have been loving House of the Dragon on HBO, I strongly recommend you go back to The Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin. This is a quick little novella that takes place in the world of A Song in Ice and Fire. It has literally nothing to do with House of the Dragon, but if you just want more of Westeros and more of George R.R. Martin's world building, I think this is a really interesting little novella. The character we follow in this one is a very young girl. I think she's like less than 10, and she lives in the north, and there's like rumors of this ice dragon, and this reads like a fairy tale that takes place in Westeros, and it's been a couple of years since I've read this, but I kind of want to do a reread soon just because, like I said, I have been watching House of the Dragon and really enjoying that. So this is just a nice little snack-sized George R.R. Martin story, and I think especially with winter coming up, this is probably a good one to pick up as well. I wouldn't call it cozy. From what I remember, it's a little sad, but I love George R.R. Martin's writing, and A Song of Ice and Fire is always going to have a very special place in my heart. So if you haven't picked this little novella up by him, but you love this world, I strongly recommend it. I swear, I read nothing faster than romance novels, and with the holidays coming up, I think a holiday romance like In a Holidays by Christina Lauren is the perfect thing to pick up this time of year. I read this in a day. I very strongly remember that, and my boyfriend came into the room while I was at the end of this, and I was just trying to finish it up, but like we were supposed to be making dinner, and I was like, not now. I need to finish this book, because it just like I was so engrossed and I was having so much fun. Christina Lauren specifically is a little hit or miss for me. I think this was the second book I read by them, but I did really enjoy it. And I don't know, I'm not super big on holiday romances specifically, but I really quite enjoyed this one. This story has kind of a Groundhog's Day element to it, where the main character kind of keeps waking up and experiencing like the same day or like really the same family trip kind of over and over and over again because something is not quite going right. And I will say this plot element is kind of abandoned at a certain part of the book and it's never really explained. So you have to go into this like accepting that, but the romance itself was really cute. It's like friends to lovers and it's very cozy without being too wrapped up in like the idea of Christmas. Doesn't have to be a holiday romance specifically, but I think this is a great time of year to squeeze in a couple romance books because they do read so fast and they are ultimately very cozy types of books to read. If you are a YA fantasy fan, then you probably know Holly Black has a new book coming out that is set in the world of Elfhame, The Stolen Heir. I believe it comes out in January of 2023. So if you haven't already, I think now is a perfect time to pick up How the King of Elfhame Came to Learn to Hate Stories. That's a bit of a mouthful for a title, but this is a really enchanting little novella with beautiful illustrations. I believe the illustrator, Rowena Kai. I follow them on Instagram and their stuff is amazing. They also do the illustrations for the Wayward Children series as well, so love those. And this novella follows Cardan as he grows up, kind of little snippets of his life. You get to understand his character a little bit better and like understand the circumstances of his upbringing a little bit better. It was touched upon in the main series, but you really get to see it fully fleshed out in this one. You're sort of bookended by this like adventure that him and Jude are embarking upon, and I don't know, this was a really quick little read. Elfhame is super cozy to me, and that's just what I'm reaching for this time of year. I think I've said cozy like 3 or 4 times already in this video so far, but oh well, that's what I'm looking for this time of year, and this is it. Like I said, if you haven't read this yet, I think this is a really great opportunity to pick it up before the new one comes out, so strongly recommend. Speaking of Wayward Children, the Wayward Children series is a great novella series to get into. They're all super fast reads. I think there's 8 of them out right now. This is the first 4 because that's just all I felt like grabbing off of my bookshelf. And the 9th one is also coming out in January. See what I'm doing here? Kind of connecting it all to new releases? Yeah. These read super fast. I think technically you don't have to read them in order, but I would strongly recommend it. They all kind of have a different vibe though, which I really like because I'm never really quite sure what I'm going to be picking up when I pick up the new installment from this series. This first one is very like murder mystery at a boarding school, whereas the second one is like horror in the moors beneath the sugar sky. The third one is really ridiculous and like takes place in like a candy kingdom, and In an Absent Dream takes place in a goblin market. So I just love Shauna Maguire's writing. It's so enchanting and it's dark and sad without being like overwhelmingly so. I think if you like Narnia or Portal fantasies like that, but haven't picked up the Wayward Children series, you are seriously missing out because I think it's some of the best in that really niche Portal fantasy genre out there. I love this series and I will pretty much read any of them that come out. I'm really excited to see where this series goes. I think there's also a compendium of the first few coming out. I'm not sure if it's 1 through 4. It might be 1 through 3, actually. So if you're not interested in having like a bunch of little tiny books, there is a bind up coming out of the first 3 soon, so keep an eye out for that. And finally, I have some manga and graphic novel recommendations for you because literally nothing is faster than that. So first up, to no one's surprise, I strongly recommend you guys pick up Spy Family. There are 8 volumes in this so far, and it is just the most charming little manga series. I think this series has something for everyone. It's funny, it's adventurous, and it's really adorable. I've talked about this so much on my channel already, but in case you haven't tuned in yet or would just like to hear about it a little bit more, Spy Family follows a spy named Twilight who goes undercover in a rival nation in order to get close to a really high up political figure who's sort of notoriously very like secluded and private. And so Twilight must put together a fake little family and get his newly adopted kid into this really prestigious private school in order to get close to that figurehead's children. And it's just hijinks ensue. It's ridiculous. It's adorable. It's some of the funniest manga I've ever read. The daughter, Anya, is a telepath who is aware that her new dad is a spy and that her new mom is an assassin, but neither of the adults know about each other, and it's so silly, but it's just really charming. The anime is great too, but if you want to add 8 books to your yearly count, this is a really great way to do it, and you could probably blow through the entire series in a day if you wanted to. If you grew up watching Teen Titans like me and sorely missed that show every day, I strongly recommend you pick up the new Teen Titans series that the young adult DC imprint is putting out. This is so charming. The illustrations by Gabriel Piccolo are so good. The first installment is Raven, and then we have an independent Beast Boy one, and then the third one is Beast Boy Loves Raven, and the fourth one, which I believe is about some of the Bat Boys, the Robins, arc, is coming out in early next year. I don't think it's January, but it's like in the first few months of the next year, and I'm very eagerly awaiting that one. The series has some familiar faces. Like I said, we have Robin and Beast Boy so far. We also have a familiar antagonist, Slade, and they're so cute. These guys are kind of exploring their powers and trying to figure them out. They're young, just like they were in the show, so they're dealing with like teenager drama as well, and this series is so fun. It's kind of lighthearted, but like deals with serious stuff like the initial cartoon run did, and I think this really like still holds true to the initial show. I've never read any of the other comics like that came out before the show did, and this is a reboot for sure, but the characters feel very familiar, and I'm very excited to see where this series goes. They're all pretty short reads, especially where they're like young adult comics, but strongly recommend these. And then for an adult graphic novel recommendation, I strongly suggest you guys pick up Saga. The first 9 volumes have been out for quite some time, but the very anticipated volume 10 just came out after like a several year hiatus, so this is a great time to start this series. We have kind of like a Romeo and Juliet situation going on. These star-crossed parents who are supposed to be enemies find themselves falling for one another in this war setting and having a child together, and they're the first of like interspecies couple to produce a child, and so basically the entire galaxy is after them because their people are just so at odds with one another, and most of them see the child as an abomination. And the story is narrated by the child sort of retrospectively. Her name is Hazel, and so in the first couple volumes she's like a baby, a toddler. We kind of have several time skips, but I think her being the narrator really works, and there's this overlying kind of feeling that something horrible has happened since she was a baby, but you don't know what it is. So I myself am only like 5 or 6 volumes into this because I've been like, when I picked it up, we didn't know when volume 10 was coming out, and I didn't want to rush through them all and then not have anything to read for a while, but now that volume 10 is coming out, I have no excuse. I need to pick these up, and they're really great, quick ways to boost those reading numbers. I will say this is definitely an adult series. Like, there's very graphic nudity and violence in this series, so don't let your young kids read these, basically. And that wraps up my short book recommendations for the end of the year. Again, whether you're trying to hit a certain number for your reading goal or whatnot, I think this is a great time of year to pick up short books. I think novellas and graphic novels are so underappreciated and underrated. I love them. I love just being able to sit down and knock out a whole book or a whole volume in one sitting. It just feels so good. Let me know down below in the comments what your favorite novella or graphic novel or manga is. I would love to hear your recommendations. I need to add some more novellas to my TBR because I've kind of caught up on the ones that I've been interested in reading, so would love to hear your recommendations. And let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were. I'd love to talk about them. But thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to check out my socials down in the description box below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, have a lovely day. Bye.